Hey everybody, Jim here with another video for you. This is 50 Years in Film, 1996. And this is also my 100th video. I just realized it as soon as I was getting ready to record this. So hopefully I'm finally getting the hang of this. But before we begin, at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, and most important, leave comments. I really love talking to you guys about movies, and let me know what you think about this year, this series in general. 1996 isn't a great year. It's right along the same lines of 94, actually. 95 was probably the last of the great years in the 90s, although 99's got some pretty good titles as well. I only have, let's see here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14 titles. I am going to add a couple more. There's going to be 2 titles added by the time that I do my ranking videos, and those 2 titles will be Happy Gilmore and From Dusk Till Dawn. Both of them I absolutely love, and I have them both on DVD. I will be upgrading those to Blu-ray. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead. We're going to start with the caveats that we normally do. These certainly are not all the films from 1996, very far from it. But these are all the films from that year that I own on Blu-ray. I am not including any other forms of physical media or films that I do not own. Second, this is not a ranking video. This is simply a recap of the films that were released that year that I have in my collection. So, as usual, we're just going to go ahead and jump around in genres, and we're going to start off with comedy. And the first one that we're going to start with is from my Nutty Professor collection, the original installment, The Nutty Professor. Starring Eddie Murphy in about 6 different roles, Jada Pinkett Smith, and James Coburn. I really like this movie. It's silly, it's funny, but it's also got a lot of heart. It's a very sweet movie. And I think Eddie Murphy actually gives one of his best performances in the original Nutty Professor. The Klumps is funny, but it's basically just a bunch of fart jokes. But the original Nutty Professor really is. It's a great movie. And actually, I do prefer it over the Jerry Lewis original version. So, first movie on our list is The Nutty Professor. Then we go to one of the craziest comedies from the Farrelly brothers, Kingpin. Starring Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid, and Vanessa Angel, and Bill Murray. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's one of the funniest movies of the 90s. Outside of Something About Mary, I think this is the Farrelly brothers' best movie. I know a lot of people love Dumb and Dumber and, you know, a couple of their other movies, but Kingpin is absolutely, absolutely hysterical. From the very first scene through the credits, it is a absolutely hysterical film. And this is a comedy drama, but it's iconic. Danny Boyle's Trainspotting. Starring Ewan McGregor, Johnny Lee Miller, Robert Carlyle, Ewan Bremer, and Kevin McKidd. Trainspotting is one of the best movies of the 90s. I saw this on video when it came out, and really didn't know anything about it other than the reviews were good on it. And my God, I was blown away. I did have to put the closed captioning subtitles on because, quite frankly, the accents are so thick in this movie with some of the characters, especially Robert Carlyle. I literally could not understand what I was seeing. But my God, I love Trainspotting. It is such a great film. It is hilarious. It is heartbreaking. It's a wonderful film. Continuing with the dramas, from my Best Picture collection, winner that year of Best Picture, The English Patient. Starring Ralph Fiennes, Juliette Binoche. English Patient, to me, it's a good movie. It's obviously a good movie. It won Best Picture, but it's a love story with the war as a backdrop. It's an incredibly well-made movie, okay? But quite honestly, it left me cold. The first time I watched it, I actually fell asleep. That doesn't make it a bad movie. Maybe that's more of a reflection on me. But I did watch it again recently, and again, I appreciate the film. I think it's an extremely well-made film, well acted. It's got an interesting story. But I'm just not a love story guy, so yeah. But that is The English Patient. Next, we're moving into action now. And for my Mission Impossible 4 movie set, we're talking about the first installment, Mission Impossible. Starring Tom Cruise, Jon Voight, and Vanessa Redgrave, and Jean Reno, and directed by Brian De Palma. The original is a good movie. It's a solid action movie. It's not my favorite in the series, but it did jumpstart the series, and it gave Brian De Palma a solid hit in the mid-90s, which he desperately needed at that point. And it kind of rejuvenated his career. Unfortunately, within the next couple of years, he'd be making some pretty forgettable movies. But Mission Impossible it's a very well-made movie. It's a well-acted movie. It's not boring. The plot is very confusing, as is most of the plots from Mission Impossible. But again, Mission Impossible is a really, really fun movie. Then, from Walter Hill, we have Bruce Willis in Last Man Standing, co-starring Christopher Walken and Bruce Dern. This is a retelling of Yojimbo. Again, or Fistful of Dollars if you want to go, if you're not familiar with Yojimbo. It's the same story. Stranger arrives in town, starts working as a hitman for both rival gangs in town, and just kills a lot of people. And that's really what Last Man Standing is. Not a lot of character development, not a lot of plot. Lots and lots of people getting shot. And then we've got Rennie Harlin's The Long Kiss Goodnight, starring Gina Davis, Samuel Jackson, and Brian Cox. I love this movie. Long Kiss Goodnight is one of the best action movies of the 90s. It was criminally underrated when it came out. Came and went, did not make money. Quite honestly, I did not see this theatrically. I saw it on video, and I regret it to this day. I love every moment of this movie. It is so much fun. It is absolutely ridiculous. Samuel Jackson, who has been in so many movies, and is always fantastic in every movie, has gone on record saying that this movie is his favorite. This role was his favorite out of any character he's ever played. I wish to God that they would make a sequel to this, but now I think that ship has definitely sailed. But Long Kiss Goodnight is a fantastic action movie. As is The Rock, starring Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris, Michael Biehn. My God, the cast goes on and on and on with this movie. Directed by Michael Bay. And this is Michael Bay's best movie, in my eyes. Hands down. It's not even close. I'm not a Michael Bay fan. I do like Armageddon. Excuse me. I do like Armageddon. And I enjoyed the first Bad Boys. And I actually enjoyed Pain and Gain. That's about it. I'm not a Transformers guy. That guy ought to just be called Explosion, the director. But The Rock is a solid, wonderful action movie. And again, like Long Kiss Goodnight, one of the best action movies of the 90s. I love this movie. And the last action movie that we have, but we're starting to venture into sci-fi at the same time, John Carpenter's Escape from L.A. This is the sequel, quote-unquote sequel, to Escape from New York. To me, it's more or less a reboot or a remake because it's the same story in a different location, told half as well. I waited years for a Snake Plissken sequel. Saw this opening night. More excited for that movie probably than I have been for anything other than when in 99 when a certain prequel came out. We'll get to that in a couple of years. My God, I was so disappointed. Again, I don't hate this movie, okay? But I definitely do not like it as much as the first one. It doesn't even come close. This isn't even like a top 10 Carpenter film to me. It's just a wasted opportunity. Now we're going into sci-fi proper. We're back to Star Trek. And this time we're talking about the 8th installment, First Contact. Outside of The Wrath of Khan, this is my favorite Star Trek movie. This movie rocks. This is the one with the Borg. If you don't know what the Borg is, well, obviously you're not a Star Trek fan, and that's fine. I'm not a Trekkie. I was always more of a Star Wars guy. But the Borg I always thought was just such a cool idea for a villain. And my God, this movie is so awesome. Patrick Stewart is great as always. Alice Krige from Ghost Story and Sleepwalkers plays the Borg Queen in this movie, and she is outstanding, just like the rest of this movie. First Contact is an outstanding Star Trek movie. And the other sci-fi film that I have, which is actually going towards horror, Screamers, starring Peter Weller and Jennifer Rubin. This is a B movie, but I like it. It's entertaining. It's not going to win any awards. But Peter Weller's solid as always. Jennifer Rubin is good. I mean, she was in Bad Dreams and Dream Warriors. And again, this is... It's a predictable movie. It's kind of like a ripoff of Terminator, but it's fun. Now we're moving into horror, if you want to call it that. Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood. Starring Dennis Miller, Corey Feldman, and Chris Sarandon. This movie sucks. I'm sorry. I know this movie has a cult following and a lot of people like it. This movie sucks. The only reason why I own this movie is because of the bonus features on it. Right there, the audio commentary and the making of with the interviews. Literally, all it is people bitching about Dennis Miller for 2 hours about how much of a douchebag he was. And it's some of the most entertaining stuff ever, okay? The commentary is more entertaining than the movie, in my opinion. I hate this movie. I love this movie. Peter Jackson's The Frighteners. This was supposed to be a Tales from the Crypt movie. And then they changed their minds at the last minute and decided to go with Bordello of Blood. Bordello of Blood should have went to the cutting room floor. This movie should have been released as a Tales from the Crypt movie with a big advertising campaign, and it would have been a hit. Starring Michael J. Fox, Dee Wallace. This movie is awesome. Unfortunately, this was the film that Michael J. Fox first started noticing the Parkinson's symptoms with the shakes and such. He actually went to Peter Jackson on the last day of filming, said he was flying back because he wanted to get some tests done. He was starting to worry, and Peter Jackson immediately sent him on the plane to go. It's a great movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But the last film on our list, I told you we didn't have a lot from this year. For my Scream set, the original, Scream. Directed by Wes Craven. Starring Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Matthew Lilley. You know who's in this movie. Scream revitalized the horror genre in general, but the slasher genre in particular. It also revitalized Wes Craven's career. And the only bad thing about this movie is that it spawned an entire litany of copycat movies starring cast from the WB and Fox network shows at the time. But Scream's an awesome movie. Outside, you could take the rest of the franchise and throw it out the window if you want, okay? Although some of the sequels are fun. But the first one is really all you need. It's a great movie, and it was one of the first meta horror movies, which has been done to death now, okay? But Scream was one of the first ones to do it. It was a horror film for horror fans, in addition to the young audience that it was trying to target. When I went and saw this movie and saw them talking about the rules and if you drink, you'll die, if you have sex, you'll die. I mean, Jamie Kennedy watching Halloween while the killer is coming up behind him, and the whole time he's going, no, Jamie, because of Jamie Lee Curtis, even though his name is actually Jamie, I thought was one of the great inside jokes. Scream is an awesome movie. It was, like I said, it started a whole litany of copycats. But like so many in the horror genre that spawn those types of films, the first one is definitely the best. And that's the end for 1996. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, not a lot this year, but there are at least 7 movies in this countdown, not including the 2 that I mentioned that haven't come in yet, that I consider fantastic, awesome movies that I will love until the day I die. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, again, please give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and leave in the comments how you felt about things. All comments are welcome. I read and respond to everyone. So that was my 100th video. Here's looking forward to the next 100, and we'll see you on the next one.